Oh,
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Moon Scarab channel. My name is Ramon, and welcome to another episode of In Orbit, a show in which we chat with people from the divination community about life, divination, and more. If you're watching on replay, thank you very much for tuning in. And today we have a special guest, and this is Jeff from Tarot Ass Backwards. How are you, Jeff?
I am over the moon right
Are you?
now. I am ecstatic. I
This
have a
is your show.
yes,
People
I
came
have
here to see you.
a shit-eating grin. I'm so happy that you are having me on, Ramon.
It
It's
was long, it was long overdue. Jeff, you're part of the domination community. You are a cartomancer, you are a poet, you are a writer, and you are intellectually abrasive.
yes, and what's so interesting about that is I didn't necessarily know at the time that it could be a compliment, but then when I took the
It
words
is.
by themselves, the actual amalgamation of them seemed as if it was a compliment because it's challenging people to look at things in a different way, and that's
Uh-huh.
sort of the thrust of why my titles for my videos often have ironic titles and whatnot. So it makes sense. It makes a lot.
Yeah, they do. They do. And I say with love because the topics and I love watching your show, especially in the morning. The topics they're like a shot of vinegar in the morning.
Yeah, right, right. Talk about
They kind of like yeah, they wake you up.
cleansing the pipes, literally abrasive.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I especially in the morning, that segment in the morning from 8 to 8:30 around that time. If I can compare it with a tarot deck, it'll be this one, the Surrealist Tarot.
wow. So many disparate images coming together to make like so many other things come to life is what I think it's doing.
Uh-huh. A lot of different elements together, but what they do is they portray life and they portray your life.
Right.
And it's through your eyes. And so this show and bringing you in is an opportunity to expand a little bit more about who you are, what you
Mhm.
do, and I'm honored to have you here. So let's say hi to a few people here who stopped by. We have Bill. Hello, Bill from 999 ASMR
Hi,
Tarot.
Bill.
Bill is also, hi, Bill. Bill is also a poet. He's a painter. I love his segments. He's on the West Coast, so usually his shows are like in the 2 in the morning East Coast, but in the middle of the night, I wake up and I there's a notification there and I jump in and watch it. We have the awesome Jackie Jacaranda. Hello, Jackie. Thank you so much for stopping by the way, we're multicasting also on Jeff's channel. And through his channel, we have Moira. Hello, Moira. Thank you for stopping by. We have the beautiful Amanda from Tropical
Yes,
Empress
Amanda.
and
Thank you.
Spirit. And your lives are awesome too. They're really
Yes.
long. They're long, but they're so much fun. And a lot of people watching. The other day I jumped in. I came from work and she was live. There were like 50 people watching. Like amazing. And it's beautiful. The energy is beautiful. We have Joanne Miranda. Hello, Joanne. Thank you so much for stopping by. Who else we have? We have Gerald. Hello, Gerald. Great to see you. Welcome back from your time off. It's great to have you around back again. I sent you an email, by the way. Who else do we have? We have Miss Tarot D. Good luck on the rest of your work. That's for Jeff, but I mean for Gerald.
Oh, okay.
But she's here. She came to see you. Who else do we have? We have Robin from Toadstool Tarot. Hello, Robin. Great seeing you. Who else do we have? We have Miss Moonlight. Hello, Miss Moonlight. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for joining us. We have on your channel Felicia Franklin. Love
Hi,
that name.
Felicia.
Hi, Felicia.
Very warm.
Thank you very much for tuning in. And we have Karen Doyle. Hello, Karen. Great seeing you. We have Odelia Medeiros. She's watching on your channel. Hello, Olivia. Odelia. Odelia. Well, we have the awesome Fatima somewhere. Fatima's here. Hello, Fatima. We have Debbie from Three Shifting Veils. Great seeing you. We have Lily R. Thank you very much for stopping by. Here is Fatima. She's watching on your channel. Hello, dear Fatima. A lot of people came to see us, especially you. So you have a YouTube channel called Tarot Ass Backwards. Why the name? Tell us about your channel before talking
Wow,
about
this
you.
is yeah, this is there. It's a three-pronged meaning in the sense that
Uh-huh.
I knew that when I was called to do a channel that I didn't have any real formal training in astrology. I didn't have any formal training in cartomancy, none of that. But what
Mm-hmm.
I did know was that a lot of the people on these channels aren't, you know, at that extreme, even if they have a great number of subscribers. It took them a while, not only to get the subscribers, but for their gifts to flourish.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that my approach was going to be very, I wouldn't say haphazard, although that's the word I'm hearing a lot today and saying a lot today, but it was going to be very delayed and off the cuff because my channel is also about words. So this is the second meaning of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
about words and the way the words are evocative through channeling because all a poet's doing is channeling. They're getting messages from somewhere because you don't sit there unless you're really not authentic in your art and just pulling things randomly. There are just times when I just can write and it just comes. So I felt that that approach to tarot and to reading had to be incorporated somehow, and that's how the poetry bit came in. But if the readings were wrong, Ramon, or if they weren't on point, I had that ass backwards sort of approach. You know what I'm saying? That if it didn't resonate with people, it's sort of taking tongue in cheek that I don't take it that seriously when
Mm-hmm.
really I do. Um, and sometimes what I like to do on the channel now is, these readings where not they're collective readings, but the spin on the collective is there's someone out there. They say on all the channels that all these readings will resonate with someone other than for whom it's meant. To me, what was happening was I felt that if I could use the poetry and just use the cards, the pendulum, and take me down different roads, that would open up the door to something for somebody. And it did. Um, so for me personally, the way I develop my channel is more improvisational. I don't maintain series. I don't have the ability to do the graphics that a lot of people can do. I don't have the time dedicated, but like right now, I'm just trying to grow into like astrology. I've been memorizing, the senselessness of memory. Well, memorizing what cards correspond to what how houses or what planets in the astrology game and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm building a foundation that is authentically mine, but I want to keep learning as I go along. So the bar is set really, it was set low because I didn't know how people were going to take me. And I didn't want to be publicly flogged. I mean, I didn't want to be, but I also didn't want to be like everyone else either. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your channel has its own flavor and its own spirit. Um, and like you say, and I think that's the experience for a lot of people who have the channel. You start at a point, but through the process, you grow and like you fine tune what is it that resonates with you. And sometimes things resonate at one point, and then through the process of growth and discovery, it doesn't anymore, and you go in a different direction. You know,
Yeah. Last
and
night was a case in point of that. We
like,
had someone on Zane Tarot was on, and we somehow I had named the video last night, you know, $10 to make you holler readings, you know, something
Mm-hmm.
along those lines. You'll all holler anyway, $10 readings. And then we didn't do but maybe one collective reading, and it was about transmutation and transmuting energy and turning it into something good. Now, it could be just the effect of the people in the chat who bring their own energy and what they know.
Mm-hmm.
But it led to a discussion in the chat that carried itself for the duration of an hour. And then some other people came in for readings. So to me, I went back and renamed the channel. And I do that with all my videos. Everyone that's watched me has seen that. And the reason I do that is I just don't know what flavor, as you say, they're going to have through the course of the show. So whatever predominates or whatever will catch your eye, I tend to grasp onto, or I think will catch your
Definitely.
eye. There are also some things with the algorithms that I don't quite understand. Like if you put a colon in, I think it hurts you in the algorithm. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that the way videos will show up. Like if you title something with a colon, I'm starting to think that maybe that's a bad idea. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, title a video with a colon in it. I don't know if
With
it
who
works.
would put one? I don't know. Anyway.
Um, if it were a political read, for instance, and I say three times a charm or third time's a charm, another colon, another assassination
Mm-hmm.
attempt, question mark, even
Right.
though it's about Trump, you might not be drawn to it because it's choppy and it's
Mm.
not. And if it doesn't have enough hits on it, that's one factor, obviously. But the other factor is if it's chopped up, it might drive people away.
Mm.
I don't know how. I don't see a lot of videos coming up in my feed either that have colons in them. I just don't. I mean, that's a strange thing to notice, but I don't see it.
It's an interesting observation, and I think you're right. I don't recall seeing any. Um, so let's jump in. So you're one of the things that are very particular about your channel is that you do that overlap with divination and poetry.
Mhm.
So share with us about your spiritual journey and how you were drawn to both cartomancy and poetry.
Well, they're two different divergent paths that came as into one. And the way
Mhm.
they came into one was
Starting with in your spiritual journey, you growing
okay.
up. Tell us
Okay.
who you are, where you grew up, how you came from early
Oh,
in
this is
life
like
to
one of those
here.
origin stories on
Yes,
this is
I
better
love
than
those.
okay.
Why not?
Well,
Uh-huh.
I was born in 1975 in France. I was born in Paris. I lived there till I was 4. My father had a Fulbright scholarship um, after he got out of college. Well, he went to the College of the Holy Cross in Worcester and studied French. He had an 800 perfect score on his exams. Then he ended up following the trajectory to become a teacher. So
Hmm.
they moved to France, and a year later I was born. So I have what I believe in the blood is some artistic ability because of the genetic makeup of where my
Hmm.
genes came into to being. But for me, as an only child, I didn't really have, and we moved around a lot. I didn't really have the sensation that I could latch on to anybody for that long without them being gone. Plus, my father was a very loving father, an overprotective father, um, and God forgive me, at some points overbearing to the point where it was like you can't breathe. Um, and there was some abuse there, but as we got older, it dissipated. But how that ties into my journey is that I didn't have any place to go but inside myself. So when I was a child, if I wanted a yes or no to something that I thought my parents wouldn't give me, I'd take a number like 27 and I would use my fingers and I would count to 27. And if it landed you know, um, somewhere still on the fingers, or if it went off, meaning, I can't use anything but them, then I would ask them. Or I would look at the clouds, and if the clouds were moving in a different direction, um, I would ask yes, no questions. I'd flip coins. I'd flip multiple coins. Um,
Did you direct it towards someone like a divinity, a
mhm. I would
person?
direct it to a tree,
And-
or if there were a piece of candy that I wanted from the store, there were points at which I would actually go up to the register and literally do I would always, I started with the eeny, meeny, miny, mo bit, but then I would
Mhm.
count to 27 or 29 or whatever. And wherever it landed was the one I'd asked for. So I was doing, in a very strange way, divination from when I was a kid, because I didn't really have anybody want to talk to. I'd also talked to a dog named Newsweek, who was a dog that I had as a stuffed animal that when we moved one time, I lost. So I would call in his spirit and talk to him. And I was still talking to him till I was 14. Um, and I would swear to this day, the when I hear voices from people in my family, how like you feel as though you've made the connection, but you've made the connection already, but you don't know why they're speaking to you. That ability
Mhm.
came from, I think, as a child, being so close to an animal or so close to a stuffed animal that it permeated the idea that I can hear things. I can hear people talking to me. I can hear people like right. There are times where I feel like my dad's shouting in my ear, like, "Oh hell no," you know, like where my uncle's concerned because he doesn't get along with him anymore. So when something's happening, he'll be shouting in my ear, "Oh hell no! Oh hell no!" But in between that time before I grew up, I was never very good at math. I was an overachiever in math, but my math scores were abysmal on any type of SAT. But anything verbal, I was very strong in. I started writing poetry when I was 18. And the first poem I ever wrote was called I Think I Am. And it was a play on the I think, therefore I am bit. But
Uh-huh.
I developed the craft. I went away from it, and I hadn't touched any sort of divination tool except a Ouija board in 1997. And it was me, it was I and three other girls, and it moved. And it moved, and it told me, and this is one of the things to this day I hold on to, I will be dying at 54. So I've got 5 years left. And
It was
it
based
was
on the energies of the moment. That
Was
doesn't
it?
mean it's gonna happen.
See,
Of
that
course.
was when I first got my introduction to real divination, and through the years, it's kind of snowballed because it's gone away for a time, then it came back a little bit, then it came back more, and then it came back more, to the point now where the board was moving, Ramon, to where it was literally going to the 5 and to the 4. I'm like, this is not an accident.
Mhm.
This is real. um, and I still hold true to that. So when I got to the point where, just jumping into where we are kind of now, um, in 2000 I had started writing. The first book was a collection of binder entries that were like this long, like date back all the way to 2004. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so when COVID hit, um, I was not working anyway at that point. But long story short, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was my friend Tara Kemp, who was a singer in the 90s. Her mother, Alice, if you look up Tara and then Space Kemp, her mother, Alice, said, "You need to put a book out." And that's what got it in motion. And that's why I put the first book out, Speaks for Itself. But I had worked at my craft. Without divination, I had grown my own voice to a point where I felt that if unleashed and I just channeled the things, that there was a rhythm to my rhyme. There was my own distinct voice. There was my own distinct color to my writing. You would know it's my voice. And then I knew I could do it. So when I looked at the body of work over 20 years, I'm like, I've really grown. I've grown so much. Why not just put it out? So I did. And as I always say, that cover looks like something from a Salvador Dali. It's inspired by that. It's either the persistence of time or whatever. You remember it. I don't remember the name
Persistence of memory, the
of
one with the
memory.
clocks that are meant
Yeah,
to. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they're all shriveled up and they're all
Yeah.
there, but they're all sort of automatons holding space for time. That's frail, and time is frail anyway. So that kind of embodied the spiritual journey, especially when my father started to take a turn for the worse. I was watching, the first person I watched on YouTube was Truth Warrior Tarot, which is Amy, and she was doing political reads. And I found her to be very, very good on camera. She's still around. She's still very good. And then through her, went to Scott Spiritual Essence. And then through him, it was Denise Siegel, Freebird Spirit, and some others. There's like Mystery Theater. They did every Wednesday, Lilac Lantern and all of them. And I remember that show so distinctly because they would use cards to read on. They weren't always unsolved mysteries, but they'd be like the Shroud of Turin.
Mhm.
And they seemed to me like they were really skilled. Like, how does one become so skilled and so adept at doing this about anything, whether it's politics, whether it's about the Shroud of Turin, whether it's about Jesus, or anything. So then Spiritual Growth Tarot said to me, I could envision you. She did a reading for me, and now she's Denise Knight Divination. She said, I could see you having your own channel, Jeff, and because you have the problem with the spinal stenosis, I have spinal stenosis. You don't have to, be seated at a desk or whatever, but it's not that bad yet, and hopefully it won't get that bad. But and you could be reading your poetry. And I thought to myself,
Mhm.
mm, a little bit of that, but not totally. So what I did was I just got the impetus to, and I do this as almost a prayer to divorce myself from the bias of the energy that some people might think is in a read, a tarot spread. I close my eyes and I just recite whatever comes to mind, either about the person at the time or about the idea of what we're reading on. And I lay the cards out. And there you go. I mean, it's to me, channeling never stops. I don't care if you don't think you can write poetry. I think you can. I think you can
Everybody
because
can.
I know you can. Um, and I've been in venues where we've seen that happen, where people are like, no, I can't do this, and then they do it. So you're all
A-
channelers. We're all channelers. So
And that is so true. And that's what I say too. Everybody can write poetry. It's just bearing your soul. You don't have to follow a structure, a metric.
mhm.
No, it's free verse. Just pour your soul, whatever you feel. That is your poetry. That's who you are. And I always encourage everybody to do it because
Right,
it's
and content
healing.
can
It's
take
healing.
many forms, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be in a way that is rhythmic, but then there can be times where something might not seem as if it rhymes, and there are ways that they do that in songwriting, where with the music it does rhyme. So it's not boom 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 boom. It should
Mm-hmm.
be, there should be an underlying rhythm to it, but that rhythm, as I said, is defined by your voice. It's not defined by rhyme.
Yes, and that is life. you know.
And
And
that's life flowing with it.
things, yeah,
Yeah.
there is a flow. Some things rhyme, some things don't make sense, but it's actually the projection of life itself. So, how many you have several publications?
hmm
How
I have,
many?
I have,
Tell us about them.
well, if you count the hardcovers for the second book, let's see, that would be one, two, three. I'd say about five, but there are only
Okay.
two books. The third one is done. I've just got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have it out by Christmas, but I don't know if that's going to be reality.
So you have
But
two titles and a
yeah.
third one coming out.
hmm
Okay. And which I have both of them, by the way, and I loved it. This is the first one, right?
Yep. That's the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's called "Speaks for Itself," Jeff Bailey, and I love this cover. It's very surrealist. It's very reminiscent of who you are. And on the back it says, "A commodity of musings from my life."
hmm And there you see that little
Beautiful.
antique shop with relics, if you
Uh-huh.
will, that probably are the point is they're of value to no one except the person that holds them. In other words, just
Mm-hmm.
like time, the moment is just as fleeting as your interpretation of it, but your interpretation of that moment is everything, you know? So,
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. It's available on Amazon. I'm not promoting it. I'm
mhm,
just bringing it up because I really enjoy your poetry, and I got the books and they're beautiful. So we have this one and another one called Some Good Writ by Jeff Bailey.
mhm.
And there is an interesting contrast of concepts back here. It says Christmas, cancer, dad, wine, sex, and Jeff. Do you want to expand on this?
I do. I do. And I
Please.
also, I think in hindsight, I thought that I had put them in alphabetical order, but I didn't. Um, the reason I called it that is there are several there are several Yuletide poems for Christmas in there. There are also poems about uh, New Year's and that sort of thing. However, as much as, and this is going to maybe turn people off, I don't know. As much as we chase the things in life that tempt us and we live with them, as much as my dad did damage to himself in the end, he was 6 days shy, 6 days few of being 72. Um, right up until the end, he was drinking. We were both drinking. I would spend days with him, literally watching Days of Our Lives in General Hospital and those four soap operas and, The Good Doctor, all these different television shows that we had in common. And we used to plan those out. And those would be days where wine would be flowing constantly. We had enough money to do that until he died, and I blew it on trying to promote this first book that you showed. And in the midst of all that, he was dying. But before I go in a little bit into that, to me, I want to say that I don't think that the passions that we have in life should necessarily define our weaknesses if they happen to be weaknesses. I feel as though on this planet, the earthly connection that we have to one another is defined by how we treat one another and the compassion we have for one another. So it's not a feel sorry for me type of thing that I had an alcoholic parent, because I was party to it. And it's taken me a long time to realize that as much as it hurt to let him go, he lived his passion and he breathed his passion and
Mm.
he drank his passion until he died. And I was party to it for the longest time. And I still go back to this every now and then. I could have done this to stop this and stop this. There was no way, because, and if you do that to yourself, you're really dishonoring the memory of that person, because the memory of that person's the only thing left. And if you're disingenuous to what was good, the things that you can learn from that maybe you can do more moderately, free, to treat your body better. If you don't have a radical approach in either direction and you don't swing, one way or the other, you'll be better off to realize that there was something that you can learn from that. And, I've had a reading where someone told me that his soul mission was to teach me a lesson by dying from that. And I still like wine. I once a year or two will fall off of it, the wagon, if you want to call it that. But I was a heavy drinker. I was a very heavy drinker. Um, but these are the things that it sounds so sad. It sounds so pathetic that it comes out in some good writ as really mannered sadness, if you will, because I can put a spin on this or I can write it like this. But these things really happened. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not as if there's beauty in sadness, there's beauty in death, there's beauty in birth, there's beauty in so many things, but we're not always seeing it because of the way we judge others. And I think that that's an important lesson because, as I said, through our own weaknesses, sometimes our greatest passions for which we're remembered. I mean, he knew all about terroir and regions of France and what grapes grew where and how varietals worked and the soil in this part of California versus another part, and Syrah blends and Tempranillo and all these things that we had. Sometimes we for 7 or 8 years we had them for free. Before that, we had them for free. So I don't feel as if, and he traveled constantly around the country. So as a regional manager, a broker, after my mother left, when he fell apart, I was there. So that automatically drew us together even more. He would come in crying. And there's one poem in there about like a wife. My mother just
Mm-hmm.
very matter of factly said to me, Ramon, you've become like a wife. You've taken the place that I had. And basically what she was saying was, you've become an enabler. So when I wrote that poem, and that was one of the first I had written for that book preceding anything, I just thought about what those words, like a wife, derogatorily could mean. And the day he died, I called her and I was so distraught about him. I said, well, it's so toxic that you got away from it, but you didn't pull me out of it when I was, and you could have gotten out of there when you were 18, but you were trying to, stay because he controlled the purse strings or you wanted more money out of a job. What I was looking for from my mother was just validation. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I spent 22 years with this man. It was what it was, but I wasn't getting in my tear, angered sadness what I needed from her, and I was remote. I didn't have anyone else around me, no family. I was stuck in this little 2-bedroom apartment, for which we were paying like $1,100 a month. It was dilapidated. It was on Main Street. We'd have Amazon packages in the middle of Worcester stolen at all times of the day. So, the culmination of pain, you guys, and if you want to call it masochism, because there are certain things that I do engage in that people find a little bit odd. And that could just be as a manner of my upbringing too. But the beauty in us are those imperfections. And if we could
Mm-hmm.
just embrace those or find a way to, we'd be a whole lot happier. We really
Yeah,
would.
definitely. Mm-hmm. It's what makes it different. And that was part of your father's process in life. That ending is what he chose. And we're talking about him here right now through that. So there is a significance. And yeah, it's great that you mentioned the story and how in those moments you invested in publishing your book, which is this one, right?
Yes,
I find it much more valuable after hearing that story. And I there's a lot of beautiful poems here, and there's one that I really enjoyed, and if you allow me, I would like to read it.
I'd be honored.
Yeah. And it's called Up. I love this poem. And it says, things are looking up every day. If only I could keep my chin up, I'll be at the level with it. I'll be at the level with my own head, which the naysayers say is in the clouds. I sleep at work, but I am not daydreaming. I am high. Yes, I am high, but only trying to run on happiness as if it were fuel. But energy needs to be refilled. Um, I shouldn't need something. Let me do this again. I'm sorry. I'm massacring this poem. It's called Up. Things are looking up every day. If only I keep my chin up, I'll be at level with my own head, which the naysayers say is in the clouds. I sleep at work, but I am not daydreaming. I am high. Yes, I'm high, but only trying to run on happiness as if it were fuel. But energy needs to be filled. I shouldn't need something renewable if the fix is a love eternal. That is so beautiful.
Hmm.
That is so beautiful.
Hmm.
I love
And
this
like,
poem.
I don't
And
know where a lot of those come from, but they're coming from some place in me that needs to say them, obviously. So,
yeah. So these two books are available on Amazon, and I'm looking forward to your third one. Would you give us uh, a little hint of what's coming on your third book?
yeah, um, it's taken me a long time not to write the last one. I don't, there's this, it, whatever you're seeing or hearing is me at that time. So in other words, the journey in the tarot will continue. There are poems that were inspired from the show Hershey, the Shadow Reader, and Thomas to Tarot Your Way, where they were written on the spot that are actually going to be in some of this. I was going to designate a whole book to tarot, the one after the one I publish now. I want to, but I want to make it all reversals, and I want to call it same thing in reverse for a
Hmm.
couple different reasons. The other thing is, um, this one will have more of it'll have a lot less refined language, but it will be as accessible as the other ones. But it also will have, it's going to draw more on coming to terms with what God is or isn't, is a lot of it in there. There's a lot of sort of agnostic stuff, like hedonistic stuff in there. Um, it's a logical step to the previous one, but um, what I'll do is I'm going to send you the manuscript of it at some point if I haven't already. I sent Gerald a copy of
No.
it, but what I'm gonna do with it, I don't know yet. But I have four working titles, none of which I can remember right now. But um, what I will say is it's probably not as abstract as the other two were. It's not as
Hmm.
there aren't multiple meanings to things. It's a little bit more literal, a little bit less difficult as far as like, because a lot of the times I was playing with things like in Loyal to a Fault, it was like someone falling off of a cliff, um,
Hmm.
and then Loyal to a Fault, you get to a place where you're indulging someone, or you don't want to say something wrong to even to someone you don't know, because you want to court their favor, but yet in the end you're the one that's going to slip up anyway. So why not just dive in head first, but yet you're still going to fall. So a lot of
Hmm.
the first two books had meanings to poems where there were multiple levels on which they could be read. This one not so much. Like, I have a poem called Decision in it, and it's literally like maybe a little paragraph, and there's no equivocation about the meaning of it. There's no
Hmm.
three or four different ways you could go back and read it. Um, so And then I have a book in there, a poem in the one you have that I really like, which is called Surprise Tell.
Hmm.
There's a poem in there called Surprise Tell. If you just read that one, Ramon, I would be dying, because that one is
Let
about
me see.
my obsession with
Surprise Tell, page
Capricorn
37.
Capricorn men.
All right, let's see. Surprise Tell. In the devil's workshop, no overtime. Just know the limbo. That is his closing time. It's his way of marking you, full of dread, for what you may have said, that tomorrow could spell the end. So freely sell your wares tonight. The emperor has no clothes. I found my fallen angel, the handsome devil himself, with a kind with a special kind of tell. It will build character of the soul, to know in absence passion is foretold. This morning, in hopes of purity, the company of orifices of last night's possibilities are doubtly holy. The Capricorn I want me makes me the Capricorn I want me makes me mistress. The burn of the cleanse will make the grips on each other more intense. We turn loose on each other because he smacks of underground swag, and his love of his wealth on me is succulent brag. Fabricate any story, but the first time he went all the way down, with all eyes on us, that I wanted them to cry. I massage the head while your tongue is on fire. That breathes the power into my snake, not in the Garden of Eden, but mine in our bed. Woo! Woo-hoo-hoo. That was
Yeah,
fire!
and
Capricorn.
that's my favorite one of my favorite ones in there. And then, just getting back to that whole rhyme scheme bit again, like orifices and possibilities, they don't sound like they rhyme. They do there, kind of.
Uh,
Yeah.
that is so you. That poem is exactly your
Yeah.
style. My
That's
goodness.
me.
Let uh um so Miss Tarot D says, Jeff, feel free to use me as your muse and write a poem about me anytime. And I want to say hi to a few people who came in, and we have Amy Warrior Princess. Thank you for stopping by. We have Hershey. Great seeing you, Hershey. Amanda and you have to be on this show in the future. We have Twisted Sushi. There's so many people I want to bring in. So in your channel, not only you explore tarot, but you also explore divination. What divination tools do you enjoy? We know about Pendy. I know about Pendy, so you
Yeah.
gotta talk about.
Hmm.
But what
Well,
tools in general you use in your divination process?
what you're seeing is what you get. I do use, though. I really want to say this because I don't want to toot my own horn where the Lenormand is concerned, because I learned by watching Denise Knight Divination do it. And there are things that there is a video I did called My Menorah, and I'm getting chills talking about it because I'm getting them right here. It was a month before the war broke out in Israel, and I just said, "Is Israel going to be attacked?" And I looked at the camera and I said that,
Mhm.
and it happened. What I'm trying, the Lenormand seems to be really underused around here, and I think I understand why. Because when you're trying to do a live presentationally, it's probably difficult unless you split the screen up and you're, on one side and the spread is in front of you, kind of the way
Mhm.
Nancy Jean does her thing, or sometimes Sheila um, does hers. Not Celtic Tarot Sheila, the other one, who's been noticeably and regrettably absent lately. But what I'm trying to say is that the Lenormand is, in its simplicity, probably the most undervalued tool that I have right now, only because I think, from a standpoint of what you can give a person with a reading. In Hershey's even seen this with a 3-carder in either the Lenormand that you recommended that we get, or that or she might have already had it, the Christofania or whatever it's called. Through knighting and going down 2 cards and then knighting, or going down 1 and over 2 and then knighting those cards, or taking it literally across 3 different rows, you get a story, and you get a story that's painted and pictured. This so-called civil war that people think might be coming, I was getting stuff around that, but it will be about women's rights, and it will be about abortion, and it will be about all that stuff. But I really do believe that the other divination tool that I have, which people find very strange, I will be in meditation and I will see something. And you've seen me do this, extemporaneously on my channel, where I'll just throw out anything. But I will read and use Pendy if Pendy will tell me she'll give me an answer. And
Do you have Pendy?
I don't have Pendy.
Some people haven't
find her.
Oh,
I
you lost
lost her.
She went.
I don't know. I asked her.
She's on vacation.
Well, it's either that or she doesn't want to be found, because
She needs a break.
I swear.
Pendy is your pendulum for people who don't know.
I swear things are moving in here. So, and she was also getting, when you saw the one about Joe Biden where it was going around in a circle. I'm like, what are you talking
I
about?
remember that.
He won't be there. He won't be there. And he wasn't there. So to me, it's Pendy, but in meditation, I will get, I believe that symbology and numbers I get for a reason, or I see certain people a certain way in a vision, like, or all of a sudden I'll get a hit on somebody, like Jimmy Carter before he took ill a couple years ago, although he's still kicking. I'm like, I was in Denise Knight Divination's room, or in her channel, and I'm like, something's coming down with Jimmy Carter. And then I didn't read anything. I didn't know anything. And then 2 minutes later, breaking news, the news bot in that channel. So to me, the only things I'm using are astrology. I use some of the astrology decks based on the stuff I know that is in tandem with numerology. I will use playing cards on a very primitive level, knowing the numerology surrounding them. But that's another thing I really want to know. The thing I've been doing a lot of lately, which you've seen me say on my channel, is try to memorize the court cards and what signs in, what planets and what signs correspond. Like, the 8 of Cups is, Saturn in Pisces. So, things like that. Or, Mercury, in Taurus is the 6 of Pentacles. So, because what that does for me, as I told you in the beginning of the show, there's this foundation that I have laid. I have lain. I don't want to say laid. Lane that lets me build on top of it. And that's what happened with, I got a distinct vision in one of Terry Renner's meditations of the Star of David. So then I asked the Lenormand card, what do all of these stars of David mean? So I laid out, I think it was at that time I only had one Lenormand deck, this one, which is the old style of Lenormand. It's the very, very basic one. And what I was getting,
show us?
Yeah.
You show us that
this deck right here. And
oh yeah, I have that deck. It's beautiful.
I think you have it too. I know most people have it.
Yeah, and I have it, and I have the tarot too. They go well together.
This today, I showed you this earlier, but I really can't wait. And can't wait for Hershey to take hers so we can use both of them.
I want that too.
And I showed Hershey, I showed Ramon. He likes it too.
Oh my God. I said I'm not going to buy any more decks, and here you come.
So to me, it's actually a hybrid of stuff. It's kind of like hodgepodge. It's like a recipe where you add stuff that you don't expect to add, and actually it makes it
Mm-hmm.
taste even better. And
That's how you view Lenormand,
that's how I
the
view
Lenormand
Lenormand.
system.
Yeah. And if you get confirmation on something 3 or 4 different ways by reading the cards 3 or 4 different ways in directionality, and if you
Mm-hmm.
believe that what's exiting the reading is on the right, provided that you, and Kipper's the same way for me. I do use Kipper, but Kipper's a lot tougher for me than Lenormand because um, it's it seems like it's a better deck for law questions than it would be for just fortune questions or about it seems to me like there's this correlation between in Lenormand, and that's why I like the Christophania, because it seems to me that there's this merging of Lenormand and Kipper in that Christophania deck, because there's this expectation card in Kipper, and then there's this waiting card in that Christophania deck that remind me of that expectation thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is the best of both worlds, to have that sort of mix going on. The problem for me is that if you use Kipper by itself, it's person driven, and I think it can only be so light shedding that you might get bogged down in what everything means, to the point
Mm-hmm.
of beating it to death. Like, this has to be the woman about whom this reading's
We're
about.
talking about
Where
we're talking about this deck.
this
Mhm.
one's a lot better because I see similarities to the Lenormand in that I don't see in
Yeah,
that traditional Kipper. Like the traditional
they're
Kipper,
very similar. Yeah, because Lenormand and Kipper, they became popular divination systems around the same time. The difference is Lenormand is French, Kipper is German of an origin, and Lenormand is more general in terms of like concepts, ideas, imagery. Kipper is more social. That's the way I see it. It's much more social. It deals a lot with interactions, and so it is a different flavor. So, but
yeah,
it's very similar in a lot of ways at the same time. They're both 36 cards. Um, the layout is somewhat similar also, but um, yeah, it's kind of like a different cultural and approach between one
yeah,
and the other.
yeah. And what I find it also interesting about it is that when people keep pulling Kipper cards, um, it does, if you're really good at it, if you're really good at it, it can be really helpful because in political reads, because it can give you timelines. Like if someone's exiting the read, or if the read is going backwards and they've got their back turned, and then the cards are going like this. This is what's facing someone, and all the energy that's on top of them, doesn't. But with Lenormand, to me, it's like a spectrum showing itself in four or five different ways, but it's the same message. So that seems more reaffirming to me.
So I I was shuffling the card and I pulled one, and look the card that came up, conversation.
Oh my! and that's
And
another thing too.
this,
The energy of lives is amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
mhm, yeah. So it's what we're having right now. It's a
Hmm.
dialogue and communication, exchanging ideas. This is actually a beautiful deck. I learned about Kipper from another tarot tuber, and I was looking around. I it didn't resonate. It doesn't resonate with me, the Victorian theme, and most of, like, all of them basically they're the same. They have that style, but this one I love because it's very surrealist and the imagery is
Hmm.
just beautiful. It's my favorite. Look at this one, unexpected money. Look at
And
that
that's
coming
another
in.
thing too, like with the income card in the Kipper. There's like a hand that's going like this and a hand that's going like that. There's something similar in that particular Kipper deck,
Hmm.
or a Lenormand deck. I can't even remember, but it seems to me that now the way these decks are going is that they're merging a lot of the same, like theft, yeah, theft.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the kip, well, you see this old Victorian style, picture of a man, and then he's looking at one direction, and then someone's pulling something out with his while he's looking at his watch. So it's yeah, I know what you mean. It's kind of austere in a way, but
Mm-hmm.
the more surreal it is, the better it seems to be at maybe showing you the energy, even if you don't know the literal meaning of the card.
Yes.
Yeah,
And this is my favorite card. It's called Thoughts. Look at the image.
I like the image there. And like you see 6 or 7 different things that could pop into you, and that
Mm-hmm.
leads me into that whole Rorschach thing and the other deck I got, and blah 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 blah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
So you read you use tarot, Lenormand, and Kipper,
Hmm.
and you were saying you feel that Lenormand is underappreciated
Yeah,
in within the community.
every hit that I have gotten that has come true was off Lenormand. I don't think it was off
Mm-hmm.
tarot. In a personal read, I have better luck on average with tarot, I think, because I'm not really trying Lenormand that much. I've only started trying Lenormand with people recently, because I feel at least you have to draw 9 cards to really see what's going on with them. But if it's a fortune question, I will try to use the Lenormand. If it's an energy question, I will use the tarot. Like, is the
Mm.
energy if someone says to me, when am I going to get a new job? To me, that's an energy question. It's not so much a when question, because the energy behind their question is more what they're asking than when am I going to get a job? Because if the
Yeah.
energy of if they're going to get one isn't there, I can't even begin to sort out when,
When?
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Yeah. The energy between tarot and Lenormand is very different. Tarot's more psychological, spiritual. I feel that Lenormand is much more. I mean, it's through divination, but it's much more practical. It's very direct to the point. It tells you like the how,
Hmm. Yeah, and
you know?
it tells you a story of how you got to this place, and maybe in some cases too, in a Celtic cross reading, which you just did a video on. How and I was watching last week's show, which was very riveting with uh, Irish Granny Tarot, and something was said about her use of Lenormand in the Grand Tableau and how she feels she's a
Mm-hmm.
novice to it. The thing was so detailed and so good. It was an amazing read that she did. And I can't remember if it was on JD Vance, or who it was on, but it was fascinating. And that's a challenging thing to do, because then you've got cards landing in houses that are different from them. And that's also something I want to learn to do, because again, a lot of these tools that we're using are utilizing, even when we're not aware of it, numerology and astrology and tarot. It's all connected. So to me, it's better to learn splatterings of all of it and then get your feet deeper into it, which is what I'm trying to do now with astrology, and numerology ultimately, because I think it'll make me a better reader. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like, even if you just get affirmation from somebody that like something is in the 7th month, and they're like, well, yeah, I was born in July. Well, they weren't asking for that, but it's at least affirming, and it's a probability that you might hit on something, as opposed to a certainty. So I would rather use more tools from even a more, I guess you'd call it, academic standpoint than an intuitive standpoint, but keep the intuition as the bedrock, because the more that you actually develop one part of your brain, I believe the other part will develop with it. I think that so much of it's so underutilized, they say anyway. So why
Mm-hmm.
not just see where the other parts take you? If you feel you're more left brain than right brained. which I feel I am, this is, and people have told me that. I've had a college professor tell me once in math class, like I could answer questions, but it was more out of intuition than it was out of knowing a lot of things. She's like, you're intuitive, but you're horrible. You're a horrible math student. You're intuitive at seeing something from a different angle and knowing where to go with it than you are practically telling me why theoretically something is the way it is. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they work and they say that too about geometry. Geometry is a very intuitive math. It's very different from algebra. It's different from any other math that you'll ever have, because you're forced to look at things from multiple perspectives in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
Linear algebra is like that too. So, you know, um, there's a lot of cross pollination in a lot of all of these divination tools. So,
Mm-hmm. We're at 1 hour already. Are you good to continue?
mhm. Yeah, I'm amped.
All right. Sounds good. We have more people that came in. We have Somaya. Hi to all friends. I am Somaya. I fell asleep and I am late. You're not late. You can watch it on replay. A queen is never late. So you talked about intuition. Where do you think we get our intuition? What do you think intuition is? How do we what is it? How do we tune into it?
This is going to sound really strange, but I think trauma can cause intuition to be heightened because there's a
Mm-hmm.
certain nervous energy response that becomes conditioned in somebody so that they're always on guard, or they develop ways to not manipulate energy. They can't change energy, but when you have trauma, there's something that makes you draw upon something higher than not just yourself, but the energies around you. So you're able
Mm-hmm.
to develop senses that will help you cope, um, in a better fashion, rather than relying on the three-dimensional ways that we're all accustomed to. So I think everyone has the ability. I just think it's how you develop it. I think trauma is one way. I'm not saying everyone should go through trauma to become an intuitive or more intuitive, but I think that's one way. I also think is sitting by yourself and meditating and kind of seeing what colors you're getting. Why are you getting those colors? What are you seeing? What Where are you getting this is going to sound really cliche and dumb. Where are you getting the chills? Where are you getting the feels? What are you what is being said to you? What is reverberating in your ear? For me, I get pings in my ear to tell me when something is
Mm-hmm.
wrong, or something doesn't feel right, or something is an energy I shouldn't touch. Um,
Left or right? Is there a
left,
difference?
le-
Mm-hmm.
uh, left is a definite keep going with it. But I'll also get, with my eyes shut, I will get a stone wall, where I
Mm-hmm.
will be told not to go somewhere, for fear it might hurt me. But I will get, not ringing in the ear, but almost like the behind the ear, the behind the eardrum, this sort of not itch but forceful sting, where it's telling me like a pick, keep going with it, because it's making sense. So to me, I've been doing this more lately, is shutting my eyes when I read and not looking at the chat, because I just noticed that when I can start learning to channel better and not consciously be affected by what is being shown to me, I can show what I need to show to myself to show that other person what they're missing. Because if I'm just reaffirming what they already know, what's the fun in that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
And also, too, a lot of people say, well, anyone could have picked up on that. Yeah. But could anyone have picked up on it in this scenario that I'm describing for you? Um, and could anyone have picked up cigarette smoke? Could anyone have picked up a pipe? Could anyone have picked up a windmill, a kite, and have it be something that does remind someone of someone else's past? So
Something
I think
meaningful that has.
I
Mhm.
think it comes a lot from. Sounds weird. The subconscious is. I almost feel like we don't exist on this plane fully, and that's why we're also much clamoring to get out of this realm, because I don't think our real lives begin until maybe we start dreaming, because it's
Mm.
then we might exist on a plane that means more to us. Like, you know, even seeing people from your past that you've worked with who were your superiors as bosses in your dreams, and then for some reason they're in your kitchen, you know, and they're doing dishes. It's like, what? Where did that come from? Well, okay, so it is the same idea for this. Why am I seeing this? And then all of a sudden, if you just go with it, it seems to snowball into something more. It's almost like I just feel it's a line from. It's almost like writing. It's just you're being shown something that you have to get out, whether it's right or wrong. I don't know where
Wow.
it comes
Let me
from, Ramon.
stop you
That's a
there.
tough,
Let me
tough
stop
question.
you there because you gave me a lot to think about.
Okay.
So let's go back to trauma and intuition. That is
Mhm.
really interesting. If you think about it, it definitely makes sense. I mean, it's I think it's we get our intuition through different sources, but trauma definitely because it's in a lot of ways you have to go through a process of internalizing it, right?
Mhm.
To think
Mhm.
about it, to process it. And there's a lot of thought and emotion involved into that. And that definitely it's sort of like an exercise that helps you expand your other capabilities that
Mhm.
are beyond the physical plane. So, I mean, you gave me a lot to think right there because it is a powerful thought.
Yeah, and I think when we're cloistered into our own bodies and we're forced to be hyper aware of that trauma, if any, then there's some sort of defense mechanism that we have to internalize, if you will, to kind of show to the world one veneer, but yet inside, right, we put on a different air. We know when something doesn't feel right or something isn't being shown right. We're either getting the symptom through a gut reaction or a headache, or if someone's energy rubs you the wrong way and you can't figure out why. That's something. The markings of that were set in stone from what trauma probably left as far as an indelible mark goes, that goes beyond the conscious into the subconscious. Like, I feel like that's
Mhm.
why so many people, Ramon, don't remember a lot of their trauma, or they suppress it and it comes out years later, because they're in survival mode. Well, when you're reading, you're drawing on a sensory perception, I think, that's coming from a place that comes from the same place that a defense mechanism that you might have from trauma is coming, because you're siphoning energy that is the most rudimentary feeling that you can have about an experience that resonated only with some person. And as an empath, you're going to feel that as if, not if it were always trauma, but you're going to feel it at its very highest and its very lowest. And then from there, you're gonna go with it. That's what I think.
Hmm. I'm gonna be at 2 a.m. in the morning thinking about this.
It's
It is
intellectually
a deep.
abrasive.
It is, but it is an amazing thought. And second part of that is your thought on dreams. And there is a comment by Rochelle by Amethyst Ascension. I love that channel too. It says, I think the real state is also our dream state. This is all an illusion here. And it goes in connection with what you're saying. You know, I feel that Earth, the physical plane here right now, is sort of like a lab to the soul, you know, to be able to experiment things, to grow through a process. But this is not who we really are, you know. And we kind of like tip our toes every day or often when we go into the world of dreams, you know, we go back to that essence of who we are. And that's it. That's a point you brought up, which
And
I
it's
found like
also,
fascinating.
yeah, and it's also the, I don't want to say innocence lost, but it's a loss of the quality of the world being sort of at your feet when you're a kid. There comes a point at which you're able to analyze dreams from a more scholarly point of view than what maybe is really trying to come out subconsciously, such that you can separate the reality from the plane on which it should be looked at, which is in a dream state, just as Amethyst said. But one of the things I did want to bring up too is if you've ever tried any of the past life regressions or the future life regressions that Jason Tempinski or Kevin Lewis offer, I have had such a good. I saw the future of in a hypnosis like state, just in this room in a remote area where I landed on another planet, and all there was water. All there was grounding was water, and the only way to get around in this, and I feel it's me in the future. I feel it's somewhere down the line, and what it comes back to, and I'll go more into what it said. What it seems to come down to for me is that we could be living four or five different things simultaneously. That's why I don't believe as much as I used to in the finality of death. I don't believe that. I believe that if scientifically we say energy can neither be created nor destroyed, then we can't be either. So in this dream where I feel like simultaneously I'm living in another dimension, call it what you want, or this trance that they put me in. There was no water, but the only way to get up to your apartment, because you can't live near the ground in this dream, it was weird. You can't live like it's like the basis or the foundations of these buildings are like magnificently high, and
Is it like Star Wars Attack of the Clones? That
yeah,
what we've seen
yeah,
the water
they
world?
take you up, and everyone lives on one or another of these. I want to call them high rises, but that's too simplistic. Um, and to get around during the day, you take like this version of an elevator that would bring you to the store, but it's like a um, it will you don't fly there in this because it's too dangerous to fly in the future for some reason. I don't know. Um,
Hmm.
you are either you're not teleporting, but you're taking like a ferry in the sky or something, some sort of chute that lands you someplace. And um, I just I found it very strange that I wasn't fully asleep for this, but I could come up with all of this. I could conceive of all of this in a theta state, like in a place where I'm not asleep, but I'm having a better dream, if you will, because I don't remember my dreams. I'm probably too heavily medicated to remember my dreams, because at night I'm on, Elavil or, Simply Sleep or something. But I'm remembering something in a theta state during a simulated hypnosis about something maybe that happened 3,000 years ago or will happen 3,000 years in the future. So I do believe that simultaneously, I think all the timelines are I don't want to say parallel because that makes there's some sort of linear quality to them, but they're
Mhm.
overlapping. And I almost feel like there are more than five dimensions. I probably feel like because time is the imposition. That's the imposition we put on dimensionality, and space is another one. That there could be seven or eight, and the people that can channel the most effectively and who are ever so much more talented than I could ever dream of being, they're the ones that are getting the hits. And that's why they're getting the hits, because I feel like they're living in those realms.
Mhm. You know, there's an amazing video in YouTube, now that you mention, it's called The 10 Dimensions. And I watched this video maybe like 10 years ago and it blew my mind. And I always recommend everybody to watch it. It explains it in such a simple but elegant way that it's like mind blowing. It's this one. It's called The 10 Dimensions Explained.
Explained. I'm gonna see that.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's an amazing video. And I've watched this video so many times. Um, and it goes uh, and what's interesting is that it talks about that we're able to perceive dimensions below us because we are in a higher dimension. We can experience the first dimension, the second, which is linear, the third dimension, but there's other dimensions above us interacting with ours, but we're only able to perceive it in the third dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And and it puts the example of if you're living in the second dimension, like I don't know, just like the Fool is, right? It's not three-dimensional. And a three-dimensional balloon comes into its world, he will only see like a segment. He will only see a circle growing and then disappearing. That's how
Hmm.
he's able to perceive a three-dimensional object in his two-dimensional world. So it goes to explain in the fourth dimension, we can see ourselves from our birth to our death. But we're only because we're living in the third dimension, we perceive that dimension only segments of it, which is the Jeff now, or the Ramon that is now, a segment of that whole timeline of who we are from birth to death. It's hard to explain, but oh my god, it's such an amazing video, and I've watched it so many times. It goes up to the 10th dimension, and it's like mind blowing. And it talks about another dimension, which is the seventh, I think, or the seventh, yeah, in which there's different timelines, and you're able to jump from one timeline to the other, which ties in a way with our perception or our concept of alternate universes. So,
Yeah, I just as I get older, the less I feel I know, the less that I feel like, you know, I smugly wanted to believe as it, that, and that's I think for any intelligent human being, any human being really who's more than two dimensional. I don't think
mhm,
that this is it. I just not that I don't want to believe that this is it, which I don't, but I'm saying as a foundation to what you're saying, that I just think that there has to be some reason why we experience what we experience here, other than just a soul contract, other than just because to me a lot of it seems, if it's preordained, and even that I always say, you know
mm,
you don't need to say pre for it to still be ordained. It's ordained. um it's almost as if it's like denying the obvious, the things that you're saying people somewhere know. And I just feel like those energies, though, that world, that astral traveling that could give us, um we need some way, somehow, if it's not in the quote unquote lifetimes that we individually live in, it has
mhm.
to come to the forefront at some point, because I think life transcends this. Like, I just don't think that this.
This is it. It's
Yeah,
too limiting
yeah,
to be it.
it's too. I hate saying, the trite things like it's too
It's a
monotonous.
waste
It's a waste. To me, it seems like a
of
waste
energy
of
and
energy, of
of
time.
everything,
Yeah,
of
of
everything.
abilities, of resources, of what it means to be quote unquote alive. I just, and that's part of what draws me into to some of the things like the Y files or those other things on YouTube. And the thing that has me really interested lately is Annie Jacobson's interviews, whether it's with oh, what's his name, Lex Friedman, or any of those shows like where she's gone on and talked about, which for years I didn't even realize it until I watched The Day After and those movies. What happens in a nuclear holocaust? As soon as the bomb drops, we become Ramon, like the skeletons in this book, and we're totally disembodied. So I feel like what we do to destroy ourselves, how we know we can destroy ourselves, how we obsess about self-destruction, how we live in a world where we keep doing it, I just don't think that this is it.
Hmm.
I just don't. Yeah.
And you took me to two different areas that I wanted to talk about and just like
Okay.
merge them. Alternate universes. So you were talking about other versions of possibly yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other Jeffs.
Mm-hmm.
The
Oh
Jeff
yeah.
that is a musician, the Jeff that infinite. And that
Mm-hmm.
video talks about that. All those infinite versions of the Jeffs in all these infinite alternate universes. Do you believe they share the same soul or they're individual?
I like to see it as I share their souls, and that even if they were individual, I have all of them in me, but the reality probably is I can't realize the soul's passion in this life the way they can realize theirs wherever they are. So I feel a kinship with them, but I don't feel like they're mirrors of me or I'm mirrors of
They're
them.
Yeah, they're aspects,
They're
right? There is like
aspects.
one
Yeah.
soul, like different facets, and you're
Hmm.
one facet of that big
And I
thing.
think I think the soul's essence is the same. I don't know if the character qualities might be more indulgent through me or through one of them, and if it's something in a realm where you can be quote unquote freer, which is another hard thing philosophically I find, because to prove to me you're free, that when people say that philosophically, well, I'm free, I live here in this country and I'm free, that's a philosophical and a metaphysical question all in one, and it comes into what you were just asking about, whether or not those two or three or four other Jeffs, those iterations of Jeff, um, share the same qualities and the same, and I don't want to say purity, the same distilled essence that I have, or does distilled essence get trumped by a different type of character, a more aggressive character? Is that character, more aggressive? Is it my more dark side? So, these are
Like
things that,
different degrees of
uh, of
different
Jeff.
aspects.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's fascinating to me that you bring that up. And you're always hearing, from your parents, well, I wish you were more like this, and I wish you were more like that, and you could have been more like this if you just listened to me. That sort of thing, is part of the reason why we're conditioned at a very early age not to act a certain way, or to sit a certain way, or not speak unless spoken to. And I think in another realm, the reality is we're all naked spiritually, in multiple realms. I just think that maybe we're the aberration. We talk about other civilizations that could be around us now that are aberrant or abnormal. I think we might be the aberration. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this constant, like, the sun's It was like when Tuda Speaks did my read. The sun rises, the sun sets, the sun rises, the sun sets. There's, as I say, a routine that we have to adhere to. We can't transcend it. I don't care how much money you have or how much money you don't have. There is no, the only way out of something is through it. That thing, you can't go around it. So I feel like there are too many obstacles for everyone here, even the ones who are the most decadent and indulgent, and those at the other end of the spectrum who are fighting to survive. Um, I, that's why I shudder at the thought that this is the be all and end all of our soul's mission or
Mm-hmm.
soul's existence.
Yes, and I agree with you. And I believe, and I think I said this in this show and my channel ad nauseum. I believe we share. There's different versions of ourselves, and we share the same soul, and different aspects of that. We
Mm-hmm.
are expressions of different aspects of that one big thing that who we are. But we're able. That's where intuition comes from. It's we tap into the experience of other versions of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in different
Yeah.
timelines.
And that could be where we get our psychic gifts from. We could be simpatico with the same people for whom we're reading. Maybe we've read for them in the past, we've known them in the past. Maybe we were predestined to read for them and we know their life, we know who they are, we had past lives together. There's just so much phenomena that's unexplained about this life that you know and what we don't know. And it's interesting to me to hear about these stories of presidents having communications with extraterrestrials and all that stuff, and not knowing what's classified, what's declassified, and how much of it is real or how much of it is just force fed to us. Because I think what's going to end up happening is someday people are just going to start doubting pretty much humanity will. That's where AI comes in and all this other stuff about where that's going. And to me, I think it's an interesting question to pose based on your idea of soul's iteration.
Why don't you
Where
expand
we
on that,
go? Yeah. Well, to me,
please?
like, the idea that just as we can freeze, women can freeze their eggs and do IVF. Can we distill our souls? It AI to me seems as if it has promise to almost recreate the person as if they're there for you, as if they never died, in the sense that if you can create a hologram that is its own entity, to me, I wonder, and you're starting to see this on your phone. You're starting to see these dating apps where you can create the perfect mate and all this other stuff through AI. Do we find ourselves in a civilization, in a simulated reality where we're at war with that, because we want to be in a simulated reality? In other words, we want for those things that we can't have, and we want them to be perfect, but we also want to recapture an essence of our past, and we want to live in the future all at once. So
Mm.
to me, AI has so much great promise for that. But if it becomes self propelled, and yes, Mr. OD, that's what I'm saying. If it becomes self propelled and AI, these entities take us over, um, is the risk really worth the cost? I mean, somehow we're going to have a destruction of ourselves, but maybe if we surrendered a little bit to the possibility that life could be as we imagine it somewhere else through AI, maybe we'll at least have enough time on this planet where we will be in peace for a while and not at war with one another. Who knows? I just, to me, think that we we're one, but we're divided by what shouldn't divide us, because these are all things we have in common, but no one, we talk about the people who won't ascend, the people that won't get to where they're supposed to go because they're lower vibrational. A lot of these channels make you feel as if, in some ways, and I'm not saying yours, I'm saying some of them, that if you're not doing the work, you're not growing, you're not evolving. But the problem with that is, maybe we're just here because we're just supposed to be here for no other reason. Maybe it's not to grow. Maybe it's just, if you can't know what's on the other side for certain, and you can't know from where you came, and you want to talk about free will and what you're supposed to do, I just find all of it very daunting. And these shouldn't be questions that torture ourselves till we die, but they complicate our lives more than they inform it, because we don't make decisions based on what will make us happier. We make decisions, most people, on fear, out of fear. I mean, war is based on fear. Politics is based on fear. A job is based on fear. Losing your health insurance, So I just think that if AI could be some diversion into one of those realities that you described, at least for a period of time on this earth, I think we'd know greater warmth and greater peace.
Are you saying AI facilitating the process of us being able to jump or experience another versions of ourselves in different timelines, or simulating it?
I am thinking that, although if it could do the latter, that would be even better. But if somehow, some way, it could take us into another timeline, I would be all for that.
That's an interesting thought. Um, let's Because we're talking about AI at this point and imagining what it could be,
Mm-hmm.
but 50 years from now, 100 years from now, it's going to be something totally different that we can't even fathom. We can't even imagine the direction it's going to go. And I'm not talking like danger or anything. It's just going to evolve into something that we have no frame of reference or way to understand, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So why not, right? Being able to replicate a digital version of ourselves and experience and somehow connect it with other dimensions and overlap all these different
Mm-hmm.
timelines and
I mean, that's the thing too,
and
is like, wouldn't you like to see your ancestors, or wouldn't you like to see, what your children's children, or, if you're the last of a bloodline, let's say you didn't have any children, like, or, you know, it would almost be interesting to kind of see um, where that would take the direction of humanity. I just think it would be so interesting to look at,
mm.
and I wish we,
Jonathan. Mm. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I just think it would be something very, very much advantageous, to knowing maybe what we could see the future as. Not that we can change it, but to know, um, because
To
we're not
tap
going to have,
into it.
yeah.
Hmm. So that's using technology, and so I think with dreams we tap into it somehow. I don't know what level of control we have, or it's something that flows through depending on the experiences that we need to go through. But um, let's see. So Jonathan poses a very interesting question for you, and I want you to take on this. What do you think about the idea that CERN, the CERN machine causes timeline jumps every time it's used. I heard of this
Um,
concept. You know, the smashing the particles to be able to study other dimensions.
I'm wondering if that's fundamentally like quantum physics in invariably what our energy is. I find that intriguing a concept because what are we but a bunch of molecules and energy anyway? So
Hmm.
on a fundamentally physical level, I like the idea um, because if distilling our essence means something is um, physically possible as that, um, and then at the same time too, if we can jump, the way that you're saying every time, I'm wondering if there's some sort of automated quality based on the energy that we carry, Jonathan, that takes us to some place we're meant to be. That fascinates me. Um, every single time that we bounce around, that
Hmm.
happens, and I do wonder if the afterlife is something like that. Um,
Hmm. I think you took it to a much deeper tangent than what he
what
intended
he
to ask.
wants,
So yeah, so
yeah.
he was asking like every time the machine is used, do you think it has an impact on the timeline that we're experiencing?
Oh, oh. Um, I'm gonna say no on that because I don't know if, and this is all. I mean, to me, it seems as if I don't think measurably or through what we can comprehend that we can just jump like we can jump like that. But if there were some
Us
way,
on this, us in this third dimension,
yeah, if it in
right?
within 3 dimensions, I
No,
just see,
you're saying
yeah.
we're not able to do it, but you're looking at it from the three-dimensional point of view, right?
Oh,
Is the Jeff in the fourth dimension maybe it has more possibilities to be able to do it. The higher the
yeah.
dimension you
The
are,
higher the
the the
dimensionality,
more the
the more
easier.
likely, the more readily you can do it. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. I thought what he was saying was this, not that he wants the timelines to change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
such
Hmm.
that that would facilitate what he's saying. But Amanda says something. I think you can change timelines.
Yeah, some people mentioned that and so did Rochelle. I think we can change our timelines anyways based on our frequencies, right? What do you think of that?
Miss Tarot D.
But then the thing is, are we aware that we changed that timeline? You know,
That we really haven't.
like
Right? Yeah.
exactly. Do we have that awareness? Interesting.
Hmm. Hmm.
Have you used divination to be able to explore these topics? Alter reincarnation, alternate universes. Have you
Um,
used your
I,
divination tool
I
to tap
will.
into that?
I will. I will use the pendulum to communicate with my father. I'll hit up the tarot quite frequently to ask if he has a message for me that day. I will ask if, as far as questions, as far as that goes, I don't know how I would phrase them to ask to get whether I'd get the answer that I would think I'm going to get without having the reading all convoluted and my misinterpreting it. But I do use the pendulum through a line of questioning so that each time, if I get a yes or no from whomever I'm asking on the other side, then I will, draw cards at that point where I don't feel I have any other questions, and then try to find out what the energy is to get me to that place so that I can achieve what it is that spirit already knows that I'm gonna do anyway. But I need to know from the cards how to get there. And to
Mm.
me, that's not. I don't feel like divination is. Um, this is another question. If divination were free will, in other words, just because I line up a bunch of cards of something that is already ordained to happen, I can't change it. I can't
Mhm.
will it not to happen. I can't will it to go away, but I certainly can look at it and see what the energy is going to be to get me there or to try to run from it. But I think the problem is when if I use divination to do that, um, which I don't have a problem with, some would say that I'm an apostate or I'm some sort of witch or warlock or whatever. Um, I just don't think, and this just comes back to my ideas about free will. I don't think this is why I like tarot so much. People say, well, why do you read the cards if you don't think we have free will? It's because we don't have the free will. I read the cards because I believe that your free will intersecting with my free will doesn't make it free will anymore. If I go out and drive and someone hits me and they're drunk, where's my free will? I
Mhm.
didn't choose that. Or was it my life path to have this miserable experience just to go through another miserable. So I want to know what the energy of something is before I experience it. You can try to run from it and maybe avoid it or change it. That doesn't mean you're going to, just because you make a choice not to. But what it certainly can do is, and this is why I ask these questions, show you the direction that things are headed, regardless of how successful you are running from it. I don't believe you can change fate.
Mm. So you do believe in predestination, in
Now,
fate.
and this is
It's
this is an
what the
interesting thing.
and
I
mm,
believe that when I stopped drinking, it was predestined because the thought of a drink repulsed me, not because my father died of alcoholism or pancreatic cancer. I just feel like even if it was predestined for him to do this and this and this and this, I don't feel like my choice, because I don't think it was a choice, because the experience I had was pretty fun doing it. I'm just not meant to have the same experience he has. But that doesn't mean that my outcome will be any different. I could have the same problem for a different reason, right? So
mhm.
to me, or I could come down with some other affliction. To me, it's all happenstance. It's and it doesn't really. I find the concept of free will really interesting because so many people will scream and yell about you know God gave us free will and all this other stuff. Yet these are the same people that want to tear other people down for their lifestyles, or, not live and let live. They make it their life's mission to persecute people. They kill people in other countries. They bomb places. And yet we hide behind organized religion as if it's some sort of, um, especially like the orthodox religions, that it's some sort of panacea or for the world's illnesses, and it gives structure and guidance, and it's that hierophant. That's the same thing I feel about free will. I don't necessarily know if sometimes choices are conscious, Ramon. Sometimes, especially in your gut, if you make a decision, is it really a decision or a feeling? Is it something that you're getting? that you're supposed to get. It's divinely inspired. I, I feel that the idea of choice is really just about vanilla or chocolate. I don't know if we make choices about whether I get behind the wheel of a car and drive drunk, especially when I'm already impaired. I'm not making the choice then. I'm not making the choice before. I couldn't make the choice after. So that's where the idea of regret to me, that Five of Cups, Mars and Scorpio sort of vibe comes from for me. Like I don't, I feel like on one level, this is all Atari for God or Nintendo. Um,
Um, before you continue, I think
yeah.
there's a mixture of two different concepts here, what you're saying, because I see we do have free choice, and sometimes that free choice, that free will, i- intersects with other people's free will, which is choice. Now, consequence of different choices is something different. It's I definitely do have free choice in the decisions that I do. The consequence, it's what we experiment from those choices, right? So I think it's when you're saying that there is no free choice, or
Well,
there's no free will,
I,
or
I
the
like
free
to look
will
at
is max.
there are no mistakes, Ramon. There are only experiences.
That is true. I mean,
I mean that's
that's
how I
true.
view it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. But I think we have free will, and our free will definitely is limited or expanded based on other people's free will, and which is choices in reality. Now it's the consequence, whether we like it or not, what we experiment. But you pointed into something interesting that kind of like evoked an idea that I have and it's that I don't believe that the universe is organized as we see it. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, there is a universal plan. The cosmos has a plan for you. The universe is organized for
Yeah.
for you or for this to happen." We tend to see that from our comfortable, happy point of view, or
Hmm.
in a certain way. But where's the organized universe for the baby that was drawn, that was killed? For the senior that was beaten down to death, to the millions of people suffering from hunger, from poverty. You know, I think that there is a lot of chaotic things happening in the universe, and we find our path and guidance through the choices that we make. And divination, in that sense, helps us see a snapshot of different possibilities. What you're saying is that there is no such thing as that, there is fate, that everything is predestined, and what divination does is gives us a snapshot of something
Hmm.
that's going to happen at some point, right?
Hmm. That's what I believe. And what I also believe is that the ability to tap into that energy transcends time. So when free will is subject to the impositions of time too, if you believe in free will, because, it's linear. If you're believing in free will, you're believing in the linearity of, if that's even a word, you're believing in times being linear such that you were talking about the consequence of something. Um, to me, that just presupposes a lot of things that if you want to think of seven dimensions, I don't think it would apply because I think we can cohabitate our own space, yet we're cohabitating with one another in a different space, but we're not hurting one another, or are we?
Hmm.
I just think that there's so much that's confining about this reality that I just have too many more questions than I have answers. And that's part of the problem with humanity. We want definitive answers about everything, and it's divided us. It relegates us to some of the more baser instincts that we give ourselves up to just to try to not fit in, but satisfy a paradigm that's been put in front of us, but we don't have any real grasp on why. Or we go along in life and we feel this is something Taro Your Way said, we're lonely, but we're not alone. We feel more lonely because of these thoughts that we do have. But at least Tarot, I can reach into your energy. If you give me permission, I can reach into your energy, or I can, and I feel that experience is not confined by past, present, or future, or the choices that someone made, or the choices you might make, or the idea that everything is preordained. I think it transcends all of that, because what I think is happening is energy knows no bounds. Nothing dies, nothing lives. The essence of us is greater than that, and that's what I really like about tarot, because it's like when you write a poem, it could resonate one way if you want to put a time, the imposition of time on it 30 years from now, but in the very moment that you're writing it, it has a meaning then, but it also may have resounded or resonated in the past a different way, if you want to say that.
Hmm.
But the only thing that is being captured is the essence of that moment. Even if you write a poem 50 paragraphs long, it's just that moment. That's just, and it's not even a moment, it could be a second. That's what I think.
Hmm. Definitely. But like you were saying, sometimes we start asking these questions and we end up with more questions than answers, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we might never know in this plane, but that is part of the beauty of our growth process, right? It's going through these questions, and these questions pose more questions and expands our view on ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and the universe, right? And maybe this goes
Mm-hmm.
back to what we were talking about at the beginning about trauma. This is our trauma, you know, this life that we're experiencing, and this is what enhances our spirituality, our intuition, our
Mm-hmm.
gifts that go
So that I
beyond the physical
definitely agree
plane.
with you about. I don't think there's
Yeah.
any doubt in my mind that even if this life, quote unquote, you know, for entertainment purposes only, it is not what you want it to be, and that you feel that there's something better that you can transcend, quote unquote, somewhere. What Ramon is saying, what you're saying is true. That, um, but see, to me, it's like being drawn into something that feels comfortable or familiar. It's not a choice, it's something you're called to do. And I believe that every one of the healers on here has been called to do it. I believe that you've been called to educate. I believe that you've been called to educate on the esoteric arts. I believe that was preordained. I believe our meeting was preordained. I believe, see, for me, it's not about trying to master anything. It's more about going inward and accepting. But even acceptance requires free will. So it's like, to me, there's so much that you couldn't accept about this world, and yet you have to, or do you? But if we didn't, we'd be, in jail, or committing some other heinous acts, or or whatever. But
Mm.
is that free will to assent to the Hierophant? You know, um, it's just all very interesting to me, and it's all very tied together to spirituality and mysticism. um, because in the astral realm, I don't think any of these impositions exist. I just don't, or these ideas about
So
preordained versus free will, and I just don't.
do you think your views on the limitation of free will or the consequences of free will are tied up to the universe that we're living in? You think
Mm-hmm.
on a parallel universe, other
Mm-hmm.
version of Jeff
Mm-hmm.
has free will
I feel like
and can.
I feel like I'm just like on a magic carpet ride somewhere in another world. I feel like it's utopian. I feel like the cares and the questions that we have here are not going to mean anything someday, and there will be many more days for us that are blissful and endless. And it might be a repeating cycle, not like hell's repeating cycle, but
Mhm.
it will be eternal bliss. Now, you think about it though. I mean, these suicide bombers and these people that crash planes into buildings and, you know, these, the jihad and the holy wars and Hezbollah and all this other stuff. Are they making a free will choice or have they been brainwashed? Or does their religion really resonate with them so much that they feel taken by it and swept into it? It's just, and that, Allah on the other side is there for them. Um, it See, I think a lot of what we are experiencing here is so that we don't have to experience it somewhere else. I kind of feel like if it is a training ground, as you say, Ramon, if it's a school, we're learning
A lab.
lessons, yeah, that we don't know about, or a lab or whatever, that have nothing to do with free will, that have nothing to do with choice or with fate or with anything I say or you say or anyone says, because we're just meant to be here. And suffering is idle. However, there are outlets, and that's, one of the things about, um, a lot of societies that have failed is that they in some ways, like the Roman Empire, it got corrupted when, they had these crazy, bacchanalias, and, they made these decisions, quote unquote, to make, and I don't know what the name was, but there was a horse that was made a senator, back in the Roman
Mhm.
times. Um,
Yeah, there was a lot of
you know
corruption and
so
craziness
it's,
happening.
yeah, and so it's like, I just think more than anything, if we want to say there's free will, I just think the idea of free will is so weird, because there's my free will and your free will, but it cancels one another out, um because it's I like to think of choice as something more subconscious than conscious, because I feel like if we can do it on a spiritual level, it's more from what's inside that's right than what's external that's right, that's telling us what's right. And in that case, it's
Mhm.
not choice, it's more, a draw, or a calling, or, a path. It's just, I find the term free will just so constricting and so threatening in so many ways, because I think it's a cover
We
for what is really not free will, and what is really,
It's an illusion.
it's
It's
an
an illusion
illusion.
of what's
Mm-hmm.
underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, interesting. We have to explore this topic in much more detail in another show because it's really deep. It's really deep. And right now, Ange says, I confuse myself when I think about this too deeply. And this conversation has been fascinating. I feel like my brain is fried right now, and I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep I have sleeping problems, but I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep because after this show, I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue thinking about these things. But it's really intellectually abrasive, like I described how you are,
Yeah, I'm
and
sure
that's
people are like,
one
"Wow,
of your
this
many
is."
gifts.
It's like, yeah, this is enough.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's a lot. So we are at 2 hours right now, and um, I want to do a game that I call this or that. And I'm gonna give you 10 different situational questions, and
Okay.
you will choose between two tarot cards and tell me why. All right,
Okay.
you ready?
This is the part I've been
All
really
right.
looking forward to. Yeah. Yeah.
Question. All right. Question. It's always fun. Question number one: would you rather take a selfie at the edge of a cliff with the fool, or at a wild party with the devil?
Um, I would say a selfie with the devil because you heard what I think of Capricorn men, and also I don't necessarily know if I fell off the cliff if I'd live, but I might be hungover. I might be in hell. Um, but I
So
would
you
choose.
fall over here, you die, and you end up here anyway.
Mhm.
So you just let's let's make the route shorter.
Yeah, like the fool's ruled by Uranus. I mean, that can be really unexpected energy. I don't know what that energy would be, what my fate would be. So I'm gonna go with the devil on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Devil, selfie with the devil and bondage, right?
Yeah.
Super.
And
All right.
Capricorn.
Question number and Capricorn and Capricorn. If and you guys, if someone came in later and don't understand, please watch. Go back because there is a story because of this. Um, question question number two: are you a shopaholic or a penny pincher? Oops.
Shopaholic. Shopaholic by far. I've never had respect. Well, this is the thing. My father told me is from a little. I've never had respect for money because I've always been taken care of. But what I will say about that Seven of Cups card, you know, um, the idea that I think it's Venus and Scorpio there. The beauty of choice and the beauty of all the things in the world that is so seductive. You only live once, which is what we're told. So live it
Mhm.
up. I would say shopaholic.
Shopaholic. There's a
Yeah.
concept here of free will as well,
Yeah.
of
Choice,
choice.
making the choice not to. And I think if you can only choose one of something, do you have free will? Because you might want to
Hmm.
choose them all. You might want to choose none of them. You might want to choose two of them.
Yeah.
But if you
Depending
can't
on the
get it,
conditions.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's an
And what
interesting,
are the
interesting card.
yes? What are the things that you are the most shopaholic of? What things do you like to buy the most that you find
Oh my
pleasure in
God.
getting?
Well, it's weird. It used to be a lot of wine, but now it's tarot decks and uh, white shirts. I can't get enough of white
White
shirts.
shirt.
Yeah, I
Why?
can't get enough of why. I
Uh
like the
huh.
idea. I
That's
like the idea.
intriguing.
This sound weird. It almost kind of looks like if you've ever been to an ashram where they're all dressed in white, or you've ever
Uh huh.
seen. There's something that I really like about the color white on me, and I don't know if it's the purity aspect, but I like what white does as far as my face is concerned. Normally, I like the way that. Um,
Reflects the light better
Mhm.
on
It
you.
also brings out the blue in my eyes more. I think
Mm.
I don't know. I just like those, and I also like. I really like to stockpile food. You know,
Okay.
I
Uh-huh.
always like, I always like having a delivery from Amazon, whether it's expected or unexpected, at my door any given day of the week, that I can track and like sit and wait for it to come. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
strange and stupid, but
So with white shirts, do you feel, I
and
mean,
buy for
besides
others.
the, yeah,
I
the
love
aesthetic
giving
part
others.
of, do you feel there is a sense of renewal with the combination of
I
white
do. I think there's
and
a sense of
being a
renewal
new
and
new
beauty.
item?
Yep. I think there's that
Interesting.
aspect of, you almost see, in mosques, I think you see a lot of men praying who are dressed in white. You see,
Mm-hmm.
like in an ashram, a lot of white. Um, and to me, um, I think, we all have an aura. I've never had my aura read. I would love to, but I'm just drawn to the color white. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Interesting. To me, it's black. I love black. Um, but that's interesting that that you love to shop white
Mm-hmm.
shirts. I never
Me
heard that
too.
before.
It's very strange
Fascinating. Fascinating.
or strange.
All right. Strange and fascinating at the same time. Totally.
Yeah.
Question number 3. Best plot for a horror movie: Judgment Day or A Nightmare on the Nine of Swords Street?
Um,
Which story will make a great horror movie? Actually, no, let me rephrase that.
okay.
Which of these cards will make a fascinating poem? Let me custom make this
I,
question
I
for
I
you.
wanted to go with judgment because the judgment is reserved for the person about whom that card is. But there's something really good about the, Nine of Swords that I'm going to go with as the
Hmm.
final answer on this because,
So
it's
it's
almost,
this one.
yeah, there's that dream within a dream aspect where you could be writing about something that you just dreamed about, or you could be writing about what is really bothering you. Some of the best writing I do is at night. Um, and it is in great misery or grief. And I know it's hackneyed to say that a lot of my writing is inspired by. So that constant obsessing, if that were reversed, I would think it were paranoia or almost obsession. Um, and I think, in particular, that particular card is indicative of that sort of thing. So I am going to say the Nine of Swords. Yeah, that's what
That's
I
a
would
great
pick.
answer.
Yeah.
A lot of the most beautiful songs, poems stem from that sense of a pain, of agony, right?
Hmm.
And here, and we go back to that same topic that we were talking about, trauma, and the expansion of our intuition and our spiritual gifts. So really good, love it.
And that's also a
So
card
question number,
with where the planets
mhm,
in Gemini too. I don't know why.
yes,
Yeah.
hmm, yes. Question number 4: The universe hires you for a part-time gig. Which would you take? Babysitting or zookeeper?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Um, wow. Well, since I don't believe in fate, and if I'm gonna be eaten, it was preordained. But yet, I don't think I have the wherewithal to take care of a child if that's a young child. I don't know if I want to be eaten alive. I'm gonna go with, the son, the babysitting gig on that one. Um,
Why would you be eaten alive here?
well, you said zookeeping. Didn't you say
Yeah,
zookeeping? Well, I would think
yeah,
if in
but
zookeep,
that
yeah,
doesn't mean that they're gonna eat you. because you're
Um,
keeping them from eating you.
oh yeah, okay. Well, in that case, then if it's a surefire way not to die, or fail, I will go
Uh,
with the Wheel of Fortune.
assuming you're not gonna die. You're
I,
not gonna die.
assuming I'm not
You'll
gonna
you'll
die.
end up cleaning poop because you'll get there's poop
I do
involved in
that.
both of
I do
them.
that in reality anyway now with those two downstairs. So I'm gonna go with the Wheel of Fortune on that one.
The Wheel of
The
Fortune.
zookeeping gig. Yeah.
All right. So you'll be taking care here of Anubis, of Typhon right there as the snake, the Tetramorphs, and the Sphinx.
It's weird
Great.
because I just saw two poodles for the first time in those cards, and I can show you, but I saw two poodles that are
Really?
either clouds, yeah, or something,
On
looking
the
at
right
each other.
away?
Yep, on top.
Huh. I have to.
Like
Oh, yeah.
the schnozzes, just the noses. Yeah. Like, yeah.
Here on this
Yep.
cloud. This cloud, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of them. Where's the
Yep.
other?
The other one I see is it's kind of angular upright on the
Oh, it's above it.
yep.
There's like two. Oh,
Yep.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And
That's
there,
weird.
and it's between the man. I mean, because this is not really an angel. This is a man. Because
Oh, okay. I always thought it
you
was an
have the lion with wings. You have the bull with wings. This represents Aquarius. So it's a man with
it's a
wings. The
man with
eagle obviously has wings. Yeah. I mean, some people see it as an angel, but in reality, it's a man. It's a tetramorph.
is that ruled by
So all these
Jupiter?
figures,
Yeah. Wondering if that's ruled
Aquarius.
Aquarius. Okay.
Oh, this is Jupiter. Yeah,
Oh
this is
yeah.
Jupiter
That's right.
energy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Question number 5. You are at a cosmic bar and the universe sends you a free drink. Which would you choose? A custom-made cocktail by the Temperance Angel or a mystery drink by the Ace of Cups?
I'm gonna say the one by the Temperance Angel only because that's ruled by Sagittarius, and that's my rising sign. And also, Sagittarians really like to travel and take you to the best haunts. Um,
Uh-huh.
I would say that the Temperance Angel also because there's something about in that word temperance that makes me feel like they wouldn't try to get me so hammered that I'd black out. I would go with the
And the
temp.
universe would.
Yeah,
The
the
universe
universe.
would. So
Right.
you will have more free will here on this scenario than here.
Yes, I think the universe might be conspiring because that thing's going to overflow at some point. And
Uh
if it's I don't know, but I trust the Temperance Angel more than I trust some cup that some bowl someone's put something into, and it kind of looks like it's got this
and you had the dove there throwing something in. You don't know
yeah,
what it is.
and you
So
have this sort of fountain vibe to it where it's kind of like I don't know what you want to call it. It's like this electric fountain. I just kind of see it more as something of
it's
the
like
future.
ever flowing. Just
Yeah,
keep drinking, keep drinking. So what do you like to drink?
really miss wine a lot. I really do.
Uh,
Yeah.
were you a white wine or red wine?
As I grew older, more white because the headaches, I think, got a little more pronounced. But from a standpoint of depth, I found a lot of the whites that came out of Italy, like Orvieto, and some of the ones that were imported. They were too acidic. Um, but like Vino Verde or Tempranillo or the grapes of the South
Mm-hmm.
American wines, those I really embraced. Uh, Pinot Gris I liked.
Pinot Gris.
What are the other ones I liked? I liked every year around Christmas, the Beaujolais Nouveaux come out. Around
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving, around November 20th, I always liked those.
Yeah.
I really liked when we had money to throw out the window, although I regret it now, was like a bottle of Camus, or a bottle of, like, if you listen to that song Mariah Carey, Get the Fuck Out, she references, might as well drink this Camus bottle. The, if you look at that,
You're
and she's,
banned. You're banned from this channel by
I know,
mentioning her.
rolling her eyes and whatever in it, and she's like, "Get the fuck out!" No, but and like that was around the time that I could do that. But yeah,
Not that I like her. Sorry for saying that.
but
If I'm
it
offending
depends. The
anyone.
songs, yeah, some of the songs I do like on her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like "Obsessed," and really like that one, and "Touch My Body." There's some I really do like by her.
Okay. Yeah, it's
She's
the
not the
Mariah
world's
Carey season. It's
no.
Mariah Carey season's coming up now with the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I think that we digress.
The self-proclaimed
Question.
Queen of Christmas. Yeah,
Uh,
the
all right. Question
self-proclaimed.
number 6. I mean, it's become a classic. Question number 6. You're running late to an important meeting. Would you rather draw the Chariot for quick transportation to the meeting, or the Knight of Swords for speedy communication to excuse yourself?
Ooh, it would depend on the job, is my first inclination to that answer, because if it were something in a rural area, maybe it would be the Knight of Swords. But there's something processional and regal about the chariot.
It's a meeting. It's a meeting. It could be work. It could be a date. It could be, I don't
So
know.
what I was going to say is it's too regal to do the chariot. I'm going to do the Knight of Swords because I might be, yeah, it's more austere to me. It's less as it trudges even through, like, the landscape. It's less threatening than the
Mm-hmm.
chariot because it's not veering all over the place, even if it's very fast, and it's energy that has, it shows maybe that you have no bounds mentally. At least you have bounds as far as knowing you need to be punctual, whereas the chariot
Mm-hmm.
might just veer off the road a little bit, but you have to steer it
Mm-hmm.
back, so you might be late. I don't know. I would go with the Knight of Swords on that.
The Knight of Swords. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's more austere than this one, but how humble to show up in a beautiful white horse to meet your date, right?
Yeah, I suppose there's, what is there, a stable where I can put the
Here I
horse?
am, my little horse. Let me park it over here. All right. All right. Question number 7. You're hosting a party and the snacks run out.
Oh no.
Would you rather draw the Empress for endless abundance, or the Magician to conjure more snacks?
Um
It's a tricky question.
Um, I don't know. The Empress looks kind of heavy, and of course, it's female. Um, and then there's Mercury energy behind the Magician, which is pretty quick. Um, but then there's Taurus energy. I I would think that the Magician might be slightly faster than the Empress because she's pregnant with the
Mm-hmm.
possibility. Plus, I think that card's ruled by. I think it's ruled by. It may be Venus, but I get
It's
Taurus.
this.
But
This is Venus. This is Venus. Yeah,
yeah, I'm gonna
this is
go with.
Venus. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with the Magician on this because that's Mercury.
With mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. It's why are you evoking or tapping into Mercury energy to get more snacks?
Because I think I probably, let's see, um, just by the looks of her, she might be the one eating all of them.
She has, I don't know, she's pregnant. She's comfortable. She's enjoying.
And that's why she probably needs to eat them.
No, no, she's not. Look, no, no. Her waist is this. Her waist is that. I mean, first of all, she looks
Well, so he is.
beautiful as
So
she
she is.
is.
No, actually, now you put it into proper perspective for me. She's not. But when I look at her
No,
from
she's not.
a certain angle, she
She
looks
is
heavy.
pregnant, but I mean, it's the volume of the fabric and the angle and everything. But all right, so we're gonna go with the magician.
I'm gonna
And
stick with
if
the
you have a
magician.
party, all right, a party at home, what kind of snacks can we expect? You're inviting me to your Halloween party. What can I expect to find?
Um, well, I really like I really like Godiva dark chocolate, and I like Godiva, if it's possible, white chocolate. Also, I
Uh-huh.
would get probably I like salsa a lot. I can eat salsa till I'm blue in the face. I probably get a lot of tortilla chips, either
S-
chi
Uh,
cheese, a lot of chi cheese, and a lot of which is the salsa I like. Rick Bayless from the Frontera Grill in Chicago has salsa out that's really good, but it's kind of expensive for the volume of salsa I do eat. So I would probably stick with the chi cheese salsa too. That's
okay.
what you'd be eating. Yeah.
I That is so interesting. I personally don't like chocolate, like chocolate bars, or
Oh,
I
really?
love chocolate cakes. Yeah, I don't like it. The only ones that I really enjoy are the Godivas, dark chocolate, and I like white chocolate too, which is
Yes.
not really
Oh,
chocolate,
yeah.
but those two are so
Yes, they're
good.
so
And
good.
talking,
Hmm.
yes, and talking, I love tortilla chips. And
Oh
my
my God.
favorite ones
Yes.
are the the Costco brand. They have, you go to Costco and they have like an organic version. Oh my God, those are so good.
I've
They're the
got to
best
try
ones.
those now. Okay.
Oh my God, I'll send
Okay.
you a photo, but they're the best. I love tortilla chips. Um, Eating it by itself. I like eating it with guacamole. Sometimes I throw it in soups. They're great in soups. The crunch or sort of like the texture
Hmm.
once it starts
Yeah,
to.
guacamole by itself is really good. What's
Mhm.
really interesting about guacamole is when you get the pieces of the avocado in it and it's still there. I
The
like that
chunks
much more.
when it's
Yeah,
chunky.
I
Uh
remember.
huh.
Yeah, there was. We went somewhere in. It was. I don't remember where it was in California, but it was.
Jonathan, you're eating those right now? Oh my God. I have a bag upstairs. As soon as we're done with the show, I'm going to finish that bag. Oh. They're really good because they're not too salty, but they're like perfect in the seasoning.
Hmm.
All right. Let's go to the next question. Question number 8. Your sweetie or whoever, a friend, whoever it is, spills coffee on a favorite shirt before a big date, even though you warned many times to be careful. No, let's point this question towards you. You bought a new shirt and
Is it white?
someone, a white shirt, a white, beautiful shirt. You bought this huge coffee from, I don't know, Starbucks, and the barista told you that lid is not properly, it doesn't work, please be careful. But anyways, you decided not to stop and take care of the lid, and you spilled it on your shirt. Would you rather draw the emperor to command the stain out, or the hierophant to teach yourself a valuable lesson about being more careful?
A boy's got to eat. So this portly boy, it has to eat. So I'm gonna go with the emperor on this one, for the Aries energy, which I am, and I'm also gonna say that I think if it's salsa, did I spill salsa or what did I spill? I mean, he's got a
It
lot of
was coffee, but salsa would do too.
yeah. Okay.
Why not
Well,
both? Why not both?
yeah,
Coffee and
okay. So,
salsa.
all right. So I'm gonna go with the emperor, thinking that he is adorned in red, and he might have something I can wear that might, um, you know, be something flattering to me, provided it fit. I think the Hierophant would just be bitching at me. Like, I warned you, I warned you, I
So
warned you, and you did it anyway.
this is an interesting take. The emperor, what it does, it commands the stain out, but you're taking a different approach. You're commanding the stain out by removing the shirt and getting a shirt that the emperor will provide you from his wardrobe.
The Emperor's new clothes, even if it's,
Oh my god, this is so
even if
messed
it's
up.
not,
This is so.
not going to be a normal show, dude. No, no.
Bravo! I take my hat off. Bravo! I mean, that is a perfect answer. Oh my! No words. My mind is messed up
So's mine.
after
Man.
this. Question number 9. You walk into a glass door in front of a crowd. Would you
Mhm.
rather draw the justice card to sue the door or the world to make it a global meme?
Um. Hmm. There's a certain element of finality to the world card. Um, I think it's ruled by Saturn, and I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if I'd want to stop. And that's quite a dramatic change, the world. Um, the other one, though, let me, I would say, uh, I'm gonna go with justice on this one. As I always
I'm
say,
so
justice.
happy. I'm so happy you chose this because I want you to explain to me what will be the legal procedure you would choose to sue a glass door that you walked into.
Transparency, no transparency.
That'll be your argument, lack of transparency. All right. We'll have it your way.
Everyone else uses that transparency bullshit. It's well
Great answer. Great answer. And the last question, who really missed the mark? Fashion advice from the lovers or survival skills from the 10 of swords?
um, um, I'm uh, the Garden of Eden was never very fashionable. Um, and I'm getting Garden of
How do you
Eden
know?
vibes. I'm getting Garden of Eden vibes off of this. And there's something almost perverse to me about the lady behind the angel behind the lovers. And I don't like the tarot to be associated with something biblical. Um, I don't know. I think fashion wise, maybe the as Laureate, the Way of Positive Change says, the face plant card, the 9 of Swords, because there's some sort of sense of acupuncture to that. That
Mm-hmm.
out of pain, there can be a measure of there's an element of
A
from
pleasure.
masochism, yeah, that you get from the swords. I mean, even in, I mean, he doesn't look to me like he's bleeding, does he? Unless that's blood and not a shawl down his ass or down in.
it,
Is he bleeding, Ramon, or
that
is that?
is no, no, no. I mean, there is fabric there, but here that's an interesting question because is that an extension of the fabric or is it blood?
I want to say that that's fabric. Unless that, I mean, it looks like real thick blood, though. If I mean, he might have, I don't know
What people
what,
think?
I mean, what
What would
isn't
people
there
think?
something to
Is
be
it
said
blood
for
or
thicker
is it
blood?
part of the fabric?
I mean, Jeff, LOL, he's giving a Benedict sign too.
No, it's interesting. It's something interesting to explore because if it's blood, we only see it here, even though there are 8 other swords, right? Where's the
Right.
blood everywhere else?
That's what I'm. If that's the
Unless,
case,
unless if it was a white piece of fabric and it got soaked, but not even because what about here in this angle? I mean, there's not blood even in where it's going through. So blood
I'm
or
still,
no blood?
I'm still gonna go with that card. Um,
It's not
I
blood.
mean, I don't think it's blood.
Karen says she loves your answers.
They're fucked.
All right. So, Jeff, we've been
Oh
at
my
two
god!
hours and a half. I didn't think it was gonna go this long. I think it's one of the longest, if not the longest,
Last
of
week's
the
might have
in
been the
orbits that I've
longest
done.
until I came along. Yeah,
Yes.
that one had me
Let's
riveted
see.
last week. She's so
He
knowledgeable. Yeah.
he's a tailor. He can make you all shirts. He said he's a tailor. He can make you all the shirts that you want. Jeff, it was a pleasure, an honor, and so much fun to chat with you. Anybody, if you're here, you're not subscribed to Jeff's channel, the description where you can follow him is below in the description box. Also, he has 2 books. I recommend you getting them because you'll get the same flavor and spirit that you've got here in the show. His first book, poetry book, speaks for itself. It's called Jeff Bailey, available on Amazon. I'm not promoting it again. I just love it so much that I want to share it with you. And the second one, Some Good Writ by Jeff Bailey. And you have a third one coming out soon.
Yes, I
I'm
do.
looking forward to see.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to add? What you have coming up in your channel?
I just want to say thank you, firstly, for the platform tonight, and for everyone that came who knows me and those who don't. Hopefully, you do want to know more about me. What
Uh-huh.
I have coming up, watch and wonder. I don't know.
It's all we don't know. We
I
don't
don't
know.
know
And
yet.
and
I
that's
don't.
part
I
of
don't.
the beauty of when that notification comes up. If I'm driving, doesn't matter where I'm at, I always log in because it's fantastic. You don't know what to expect. And it's so rich and mind-blowing. And that's who you are. And that's why we love you. So thank you for everything you do, Jeff,
You're
sharing
welcome.
the beauty of who you are because you are a beautiful person and everything that you share there is messed up, but it's beautiful at the same time. All right. We love you, Jeff. And thank you for being you because that's
Thank
what
you,
we like.
Ramon. Thank you so much.
All right. Of course. And thank you, everybody, for being here. This was a great show. Thank you for sharing with us. We love your energy. And I'm looking forward to see you all again in another episode of In Orbit.
Thank you,
And
Jonathan.
as always, yes, it was a great chat. It was a fantastic chat. And as always, thank you very much for watching and blessings to all.